Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video we're going to be taking a look at Bane and how to defeat Bane, because I know Bane is a pain for many of the players, especially if you are just exploring or starting to complete Act 5, because that is the first kind of like one of the first real trouble nodes. So first things first, you can use any champion when fighting against Bane. It's all about timing and paying attention to that Bane timer. The key aspect is not to get stuck with Bane timer about to expire when opponent is either shooting their special attack or nearly at 3 bars of power and you can't potentially land a hit on them. Another key aspect to countering Bane is sometimes cutting your combos short or just waiting out your parry timer, because on normal opponents, if there's no limber involved, parry timer is quite long and it gives you quite a few seconds of a wait time before you can start attacking and kind of like procrastinate your combo to a bit later in order to make sure that that Bane timer is going to expire in the middle of your combo and you can transfer it right on time back on opponent. As we can see here, Hood has no real abilities to counter Bane, and I'm not even using any special attacks. I'm just kind of like showing that we can do entire fight with a regular champion without having a single Bane tick on us, so long as we are paying attention to the timer, trying to bait out all the opponent's special attacks early in the timer as possible. And sometimes when we have to, we are kind of like delaying our attacks after a parry stun. And in a regular easy fight in Act 5, that's not too difficult to do. Main thing is, as always, make sure you don't give opponent too much power. Make sure you pay attention to that Bane timer. And that's it. It's, in theory, quite an easy fight. Why so many people struggle with it? Because it is one of the first nodes that makes you play different. It makes you kind of like pause your attacks, change the timing, sometimes do 3-hit combos, sometimes wait after your parry, and it's all in you. It's not the champion that's needed in order to fight this node, especially in kind of like more generic, easier matchups. There are some matchups that are harder when opponents have a lot of power gain, or they have a lot of evade or unstoppable, where you struggle finding your openings, where the same principles will apply as these regular fights. However, you will have to be even more vigilant. But obviously, as all nodes in game, there are some champions that deal with them better and some champions that deal with them worse. And the champions that deal with them better typically are power control champions, just because if you use a good power control champion, opponent will hardly ever throw their special attacks, which will mean that you don't have to worry about being caught with your pants off in the middle of opponent's special attack animation, suffering Bane damage. And that's quite as simple. It gives you a lot more freedom in the fight to fight as normal, basically, and without having to worry about baiting opponents' special attacks or when they get stingy with their special attacks. Now, next champion we're going to take a look that is also absolutely perfect for Bane is Quake. Just because Quake never strikes the opponent, the Bane never starts to take effect, because the Bane timer only starts with when the first hit of the fight is landed. And no, you do not have to be a perfect Quake player. You do not have to be able to fully heavy dex all opponents' attacks. You can use your parries, because strikes in the block do not transfer or start Bane. So you can just hold your heavy, parry opponent's attack, hold your heavy, parry opponent's attack, and here at the end I like to be cheeky and drop my heavy attack on purpose just to give myself a bit of extra Bane damage potential for opponent. And yeah, as we saw there, the fight is super easy, nothing too complicated. Another champion that is an absolute MVP when it comes to dealing with Bane is Ghost. When I did my Act 5 completion using 3-star champions, Ghost was pretty much the best go-to champion for most of the fights where Bane was involved. Just because if you are using Hood synergy, you take no damage while you are phasing, and that means even if you are caught with the Bane transfer in the middle of opponent's special attack animation, you take no damage from it, and then you basically just need to land a hit on opponent, transfer it back, and they will start taking damage as normal. Now, I'm not playing this fight perfectly just to kind of demonstrate that Hood synergy is in fact extremely valuable when it comes to bypassing Bane damage and lets you be a lot more careless, pay a bit less attention to that Bane and focus more on the fight itself, because typically when you're using Ghost on Bane, you can, for most part, pretty much ignore it. Another important aspect of the Bane is your current health level and your total health level. As I'm going to demonstrate here, currently we are dealing 89 damage per tick to our opponent while Bane is on them, and that is based on our health level, not percentage of our health, but the actual amount of HP that we have. So here we can see, again, we transferred Bane, we still didn't lose any health, and we're dealing 89 damage to opponent. And now I will basically let this old man Logan hit me on purpose a couple of times, get my health a bit lower. And we're going to see that next Bane that is going to get transferred on him is going to be ticking for 70, 71. So we lost quite a bit of damage there. So what does that mean? That means it goes both ways. First of all, if you do make a mistake on Bane, while opponent is in low health, it won't be as punishing. However, if you mess up at the beginning of the fight, you will lose a lot of health quickly. However, it works also in your benefit. The higher your health pool is, the more damage you can deal to opponent. And that is going to be demonstrated now with two champions that can take advantage of that. First of all, we're going to be using a random healing champion like Wolverine X23, for instance. Now, Wolverine X23 has a potent regeneration, which means your health pool for most part of the fight, if you don't get hit too much, is going to be close to 100%. And that means you will always be dealing maximum amount of Bane damage to your opponent, which overall obviously helps to increase your damage output, and you can actually use Bane as an assistant kind of like method in dealing extra amount of damage to your opponent, which is a side of Bane not too many people think about too often. So when it comes to using champions that are more suitable for Bane, then any champion that can maintain their health pool towards the top and regenerate should you happen to make a slip up is going to be a good option, as well as any champion that's ranked up higher and has a massive health pool. As we saw there before, we were dealing like 100 Bane damage or something like that, and I'm taking in King Groot, 6-star King Groot, rank 1, and as we all know, King Groot is an absolute health pool powerhouse, and because his health pool is so large, the Bane damage currently is increased to 371 ticks 371 damage per tick. And additionally to that, King Groot obviously has his own regeneration abilities, which is gonna help us to keep his health pool topped up. And what do you know? When it comes to Bane nodes, King Groot is actually quite a potent damage dealer, just because you basically get this damage over time debuff on opponent if you are playing well, that helps you immensely to take down your opponents quicker. So there is another Bane tip. Use champions with large health pool and gain an extra advantage in the fight by dealing more damage. Now, as mentioned before, many of the power control champions do work extremely well when it comes to dealing with Bane easier and making sure Bane is not too much of a pain. But Magic has some quite exceptional abilities that I did want to talk about specifically. First things foremost, she has her Limbo, which quite often can help you mitigate a lot of that Bane damage should you happen to get caught. Second of all, her power control is excellent and second to none, to a point where opponent can never reach bar power. And lastly, you can also spam your heavy attacks, and that will guarantee you a large coverage of the fight time to be your attack striking opponent, and that is something you kind of prefer, because you land these hits guaranteed at all times, all the time, so you can completely ignore Bane. And for the last fight that we can mention, that having unblockable special attacks and special attacks that deal many hits and that have their animations fairly lengthy is also extremely helpful, because you can extend kind of your combo and therefore the window of opportunity that you have to transfer Bane by chaining your special attacks to your regular combo, because it's all about timing. Timing is something you have to learn. As I have showed in this video, there are many champions, pretty much all champions can be used on Bane, but it's you who have to practice to play against this node. And other than that, I think think that will pretty much do for today. I hope you guys found this video helpful. So remember that it's all about timing your parries, cutting your combos short, timing your special attack, paying attention to that Bane timer, paying attention to opponent's power level, not to get stuck when opponent is launching their special attack, not to get stuck when opponent is close to 3 bars of power. And those are the kind of key points you want to keep in mind when fighting against Bane. And yeah, that will pretty much do for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, do hit that like button, do hit that sub button, hit all the buttons. See ya.